he could have undermined the messaging so much that he can actually control exactly what people think, and that is our job.
Also interesting is, remember, it's illegal to possess these stolen documents. It's different for the media. So everything you learn about this, you're learning from us.
We want you to know that our hearts are out there marching with them.
CNN is not publishing the user's name because of his apology, his removal of all the offensive posts, and his pledge not to repeat this behavior on social media.
The fuel then erupted into flames when ignited by the impacting car's headlight.
We acknowledge the placing of the incendiary devices under the truck was a bad idea from start to finish.
Of a conspiracy theory. A conspiracy theory, not just any conspiracy theory, an incredibly insulting one.
Wild conspiracy theories about him being a Nazi sympathizer have been repeatedly debunked.
On social media, right-wing conspiracy theories
to a Texas-sized conspiracy theories.
This is the stupidest conspiracy theory of the year. It might even be the stupidest conspiracy theory of the 21st century.
A false conspiracy theory, well, all conspiracy theories are false.
Mr. LaPierre, I have to stop you there. No one fakes stories at CNN, and John Zarrella definitely did not fake a story at CNN.
Here. But I don't appreciate you denigrating our reporting. I think that you know we have excellent reporters here. But are you saying that you don't want to believe that? This is our reporting. We have rock-solid sources.
House full of explosions, what may have been an outgoing Patriot ground-to-air missile, some reported airbursts that may have been an intercept of an incoming Scud missile. Je suis un journaliste américain. Woof. Woof. Oh, I love this country so much.
You guys just don't have a clue.
Well, Cheryl, it was almost exactly 2 hours ago when the sirens went off here in Saudi Arabia. Where we are in eastern Saudi Arabia, there was no problem.
Truer words.
You know what, John Fredericks? You know what, John Fredericks? John, until that last comment, I'm going to cut you off. Can we please cut him off? Can we take him off the screen? Can we get rid of John Fredericks? Thank you. First of all, I was going to let him speak until you doubly insulted me.
But I think I need to get another. Someone said that you saved me from getting a nipple piercing. I think I'm going to get one.
You're welcome.
Should I get one?
Dawn's mom, you're welcome.
To at least 3.
Just, I think I'm going to have to hand this off. Yeah. Sorry. That does it for us tonight. We'll see you again tomorrow. Now it is time for The Last Word with Lawrence O'Donnell, where he is live in Brownsville, Texas.
You can't just invent
I'm not
things.
inventing
You just
anything.
invented an entire thing. The FBI has already come out with a report on Hillary Clinton's emails. What you just said was an invented thing. There's no 33,000 emails.
There are other work-related emails that they did not produce to state and that we did not find elsewhere and that are now gone.
I believe in you, Hillary. I've been to Rwanda. I've been to your hospital in Rwanda. I've seen all the good you've done. I believe in you. Women need you. Minorities need you. I need you.
But like you heard this man, very passionate about the idea he doesn't want Hillary to stop.
Yeah, Brian, you know I used to live there, and I know that guy. That's John Gurkovic. He actually went to Africa with me as a cameraman.
You can keep saying media matters. It's not a dog whistle here. You can say it as much as you want. Who cares? I don't care where else you've seen it.
That's where the quote comes from.
We pulled it from him.
Have you listened to the interview?
We pulled it from him. No, I have the quote. It starts, rape used to have a narrow definition. Rape used to have a definition from where it was. It's from Alex Marlowe. He said it. It was a sound on tape, in fact.
Chris, you took the quote from a partisan activist organization called Media Matters, and you're not going to be able to deny it.
Look, I get what you're doing. There's no need to go into it.
This is nonsense. It's silly, but it's consistent with the kind of cultural warrior that he is. Because at the same time that he's doing this with regards to South African white farmers, I think 2 of them perhaps might have been killed in some instance, with the majority of folks who have been subject to any kind of violence, and this is non-white farmers in this instance. He's also, shall we say, playing the card with regards to the Molly Tibbet murder, this horrific this horrific murder in Iowa. He's saying that this is a result of not having the wall. Here, this is a morally debased man who will do anything to protect himself and to divert attention from the fact that he has been noted as a non-indicted co-conspirator in a felony.
When people talk about fake news, a lot of folks just roll their eyes like, whatever. People figure it out. The truth is they don't always figure it out. And someone could have been killed inside of your restaurant for no good reason other than people like Alex Jones fanned a conspiracy theory that even the DC police say has no basis in fact.
Is this the year of fake news?
Fake news. Fake news is shared more than ever.
Fake news stories.
Fake news.
The growing and booming business of creating fake news.
So-called fake news.
Fake news story.
Fake news websites.
A fake news story. Fake news conspiracy.
The fake news is making fake news into the fake news phenomenon. Growing problem of fake news.
Fake news is getting out there.
Industrialized fake news operations.
Following this week, fake news that
being a fake news story.
When fake news stories use the name.
Julian, fake news. All across the board.
The fake news trend.
There's fake news, flat out fake news.
Well, the DNA results are in. And she is. She's actually about 1/32nd.
She's actually about 1/32nd.
I don't know the answer. I just don't know what the right, as a tactical thing, it's not clear to me. Is she trolling him? You know, is there some kind of element here of you bet me $1 million, I'm going
to collect?
Yes, I mean, is there some way in which she's just basically trying to get in his face?
Yeah.
Because she was confident of what the answer was going to be, and she's finally telling him, shut up. You know, here's some science for you, buddy. I know you don't understand how DNA works, but take a look at this.
I have an answer for this entire kerfuffle, which is read a book. If you did not know that many of the people, and a vast majority of people who are natively from Oklahoma, they have some part native. If you know anything about the Great Migration or American history, you would know that. They literally have not read a book. So that's one piece.
I mean, did she achieve? I'm not 100% sure what the goal was.
I'll tell you what it is.
What is it?
She's going to apply to open a casino here in Massachusetts. No.
It would be worse if there was no ancestry at all from the Native American side. But I think the real vulnerability in a lot of American families was the idea that she gained in her career from this. And a few months ago, it looked as if that might be possible. But the Boston Globe, a couple months ago, did an extraordinarily good and thorough investigation of this and found that at every step, at University of Texas, at University of Pennsylvania, at Harvard Law School, at every step, she was hired as a white woman, and that these issues of Native ancestry played zero role. So I think that largely disposes.
How do you feel about President Trump calling her Pocahontas?
That Republicans are moving the goalposts here. First, she had no ancestry. The president said that multiple times. Now she doesn't have enough ancestry.
On this broadcast last week, in an effort to honor and thank a veteran who protected me and so many others after a ground fire incident in the desert during the Iraq War invasion, I made a mistake in recalling the events of 12 years ago. It did not take long to hear from some brave men and women in the air crews who were also in that desert. I want to apologize. I said I was traveling in an aircraft that was hit by RPG fire. I was instead in a following aircraft. We all landed after the ground fire incident and spent 2 harrowing nights in a sandstorm in the Iraq desert. This was a bungled attempt by me to thank one special veteran and, by extension, our brave military men and women, veterans everywhere, those who have served while I did not. I hope they know they have my greatest respect and also now my apology.
So Kanye West is heading to the White House on Thursday for a meeting with the current resident.
Does the Oval Office have enough room for the 2 egos?
I think we're seeing someone suffering from mental illness.
Wow. Okay, I'm doing this for everybody who's watching us who turned their volume down. You can put it back up again.
But if you think you're going to get a thoughtful play-by-play and political analysis, you're not. Because that was an assault on our White House.
That was crazy. That was bonkers. I mean, the things that Kanye said.
Can I go with my favorite?
Yeah.
How he talked about he had a lack of male role models in his life growing up.
Not a lot of male energy in his house.
The reason he was drawn to MAGA was because of the male power.
He talked about the fact that black people have been using welfare, that there aren't fathers in the home. Of course, we know that those things are just patently false, and that Kanye West was really talking about all this stuff and really not making a lot of sense.
This is our White House.
I mean, Steph.
Wolf, listen, I have no animosity for Kanye West. I'm just going to be honest, and I may get in a lot of trouble for it. I actually feel bad for him. What I saw was a minstrel show today. Him in front of all of these white people, mostly white people, embarrassing himself and embarrassing Americans, but mostly African Americans, because every one of them is sitting either at home or with their phones watching this, cringing. I couldn't even watch it. I had to turn the television off because it was so hard to watch. Him sitting there being used by the President of the United States, the President of the United States exploiting him, and I don't mean this in a disparaging way, exploiting someone who needs help. We need to take the cameras away from Kanye and from a lot of this craziness that happens in the White House, because it is not normal, and we need to stop sitting here pretending that it's normal. This was an embarrassment. Kanye's mother is rolling over in her grave.
This isn't even really about Kanye West. This is about the president sitting there, listening, nodding, laughing, calling Kanye West a smart cookie, saying Kanye West can speak for him anytime, putting on this show less than 24 hours after the worst hurricane to ever hit the Florida Panhandle made landfall.
Yeah, what a time to be alive. May we live in interesting times. Look, all jokes aside, I thought that was really sad. I think you had there a man who's clearly not okay and a president who's willing to exploit that.
And it's embarrassing. We have an urgency today to educate and teach all young people that what he is saying is wrong. I don't care how popular he is. I don't care how many people love his music. There needs to be an outcry, because that's the same thing as a Holocaust denier. Kanye doesn't read anything, and he needs to go back to school. Somebody needs to take him the autobiography of Malcolm X this morning, sit him down somewhere and make him read it.
They believe there is discrimination against white people in America.
I'm very confused by it.
I'm not asking you.
What makes those voters so ignorant? Well, for starters, they are whiter.
Alleged kidnapping and torture streamed live on Facebook. A white teenager with special needs tied up and beaten as a group of young African Americans shouting anti-white slurs and calling out Donald Trump.
It was an 18-year-old victim who was tied and gagged. The suspects put a knife to his throat at different points in this video. They make him drink from the toilet. They shout expletives against white people and against the president-elect. This torture goes on for more than 30 minutes.
Donald Trump, white people, boy.
No.
I can't say that it's a hate crime.
We don't know if it's a hate crime.
Okay.
But more importantly, even if we have people of color in our lives, that would be like a straight man saying that he can't be sexist because he has a wife. Like, who would make that argument, right? Just because you have people who are close to you in a marginalized group doesn't mean that you don't carry any prejudice in the larger society.
But what's the thing that's most common? And the sad thing is, it's the whiteness. That's what's most common, not the workingness.
When you're white, you don't know what it's like to be living in a ghetto. You don't know what it's like to be poor.
You know, when you're looking at ISIS or you're looking at radical Islamic terrorism, I covered a number of stories where the FBI would track young kids or young men, and they would talk to them online and say, you know, here's how you build a bomb, or here's where you get your bomb making materials. And they tracked that person as that person radicalized and then arrested them before they could do anything bad. Why is the same not being done for white extremists? Or is the same being done, we just don't know about it?
No, it's time to seriously ask that question and to wrestle with it, because politics does enter in. And as you said, as soon as you mention even the need for a domestic terrorism statute, right, that addresses this, you'll hear people start screaming, this is the thought police. You're trying to suppress thought. My answer to that is this is not about thought. This is about verbalizing an intention to commit violence. That's what we're talking about. And when you have that going on in droves online, it's time to hit it head on and do it in partnership between law enforcement and providers. And if we don't get out in front of it, it'll just keep happening, because the president represents a bully pulpit where there's fresh daily content of radicalization. The same goes for a state-subsidized news network that refuses to denounce this kind of thing. Radical Islamists would give their right arm to have that kind of fresh daily content going on.
You've probably seen it with people around your life. I think everybody knows somebody at this point who turned into kind of a crazy person from YouTube or Facebook or something, because they started in a pretty decent place and they ended in a pretty bad place because they were vulnerable to that kind of message.
If they know how to do that, why aren't they doing it?
Politics. The answer is politics.
What is politics?
It's very easy to say we should not have ISIS on our platform, right? It's not very easy to say because there's gradations of white nationalism, right? It's not very easy to identify this is acceptable, this is unacceptable, and that's really there's a lot of money on the far right, and even not necessarily the far right, saying, "Oh, this is a speech issue."
Yeah.
Like when
conservatives
Ted Cruz
will take on the issues and say you're trying to quiet us. Why do conservatives feel like they need to help protect right-wing extremists?
And so open communication can have these horrifically negative effects.
If I was Prime Minister, I'd be considering blocking Facebook and YouTube out from New Zealand entirely until they clean up their act.
For me, on Friday, I was part of and I watched hours of our broadcasts telling viewers that platforms like Facebook were trying to take the video down. Do you know what killed me? The word trying. And it struck me that the issue of content control on Facebook goes far beyond this specific incident and even beyond the platform itself. Hateful messages are spread on Twitter, Instagram, and other social media platforms, and they plague millions of Americans. I'm one of them. This weekend, I actually took my message to Instagram. I asked the platform if they're willing to provide content, if they have machine learning, AI, that figures out, for example, that I love to buy shoes, then they have the ability to flood my feed with shoe ads. They can perform for advertisers. And yet every single day, rather than just blocking accounts, I take the hate-filled messages that get sent to me and I report them. I submit it. Harassing, harassing, harassing. And Facebook and Instagram say that they listen, but they don't actually do anything. And I'd like to understand what are the standards in which they practice to certainly create a safer place of well-being for their users.
But
I want it beforehand, Levi. I want it beforehand.
Sorry?
I want this shut down before the massacre.
Beforehand.
They are investing billions of dollars in artificial intelligence. There should be mechanisms for detecting this kind of content, diverting it to a human moderator, and pausing the stream.
These companies need to be fined. They floated some legislation that would say if you have any extremist content up on your platform for more than an hour, we're going to fine you. This is scaring tech companies a lot across the world. Shared on 8chan, where there's a whole lot of people who have nothing better to do than spread this around the internet.
But really, this should never have been live streamed and never should have been then shared online, and yet it is.
I don't think the social media companies are doing enough.
The gunman left a huge digital footprint. He was posting across platforms before the actual incident. He also made references to online and meme culture, name-checking YouTube stars as well.
PewDiePie is denouncing the deadly mosque attacks in New Zealand after a suspected gunman mentioned him during a live stream of the crime.
And they don't do a good job of that. And I'm not talking about the video. I'm talking about just hate speech. I think that so the part about unwilling to do it, Jack Dorsey is pretty famous for saying that he's the keeper of the First Amendment flame and that anybody should be able to say anything as long as it's not threatening or violent. Well, guys like this should be stopped from even speaking out, with hate speech, and I don't think the sites do a good enough job with that.
Yeah, I agree, and I was struck by Kathleen Belew's remarks that it's a white power movement and a social groundswell, and I can't help but think that the amplification and strengthening of this institution or this movement has occurred through the internet.
The head of a counterterrorism organization based in Berlin believes intelligence agencies have been too focused on religious extremism and overlooking the rise of white supremacy.
One of the biggest problems over the last, I would say, 10 years has been that the far-right scene, and not just in New Zealand, but in most countries around the world, has been overlooked.
The threat to our security is greater with these groups than it is with these sort of foreign fighters or, foreign-inspired individuals, and we just need to confront this.
And beyond that, you have two really intriguing data points on either side of this attack that I think are really disgusting, honestly. One is that
While the attack was going on, Trump's most recent tweet was a link to Breitbart, which is one of the most Islamophobic websites in the American media system. And then after the attack, 2 days later, when Judge Jeanine Pirro of Fox News was under fire for the fact that she had made extremely bigoted comments towards Muslims, Trump decided to spend his day defending her on Twitter, doubling down on this idea that we should actually defend anti-Muslim bigots, when in fact that ideology is the same ideology that's shared by the shooter. And so, I think when we have something where an act of violence occurs, the normal human instinct is to condemn it without any sort of equivocation, and Trump is simply unable to do that when the shooter is somebody who is a white nationalist. And at some point, we just have to say this is not a coincidence.
When we look at the similarities that these attacks have, other than white supremacists, what we see is easy access to guns, number one, and number two, the use of social media, to cultivate that hate, to find others who believe in it as well, and then also to spread that hate.
We don't know enough about our neighbors, about the beautiful customs and traditions that they're about. We need to be able to learn more about our neighbors, to appreciate, for example, the beauty that is Islam. When we understand that better, then we can respect our neighbors more, find that we have so much more in common with our neighbors. We've had enough of how you behave. This is unacceptable. And we're going to demonstrate for you the way you should be behaving.
We are concerned about troubling and irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.